Hi, so I thought I would just do a little video, just kind of like a hints and a tips formats. So this is basically just for anybody who's looking at reading the cards for themselves. Just some like little tips that you can use for getting on with this, okay? So number one is when you're using the cards, don't look at it as a tool for predicting this concrete future for you. You know, this is not what tarot's all about. It's, you know, it's kind of like working with these images, the energy, working with your subconscious mind as well, just to see what messages come through. And it's for using it as a tool of empowerment and helping you to make decisions rather than giving all your power to the cards and just like pulling a card out and, you know, either feeling like, oh, this is hopeless, this is never going to work, or pulling out something that's like, you know, a really uplifting image, like, you know, the sun card, and being like, oh yeah, great, everything's going to be rosy, and you're just literally giving all your power to the cards. So what you need to be doing is going deeper than that and looking at, you can work with the energy, the subtle messages that it's giving to you, just for helping you on your way. So I always look at the cards as a kind of like little pocket-sized life coach. You know, they're like a friend that you can go to. So look at them as an advisory tool, not this all power and, you know, you pull this card and that is how your future is going to be. Because don't forget, we all have free will, and, you know, you can't just put everything, all your eggs in this basket of this. So another tip that I'll give to you as well is, if you're going to do a reading for yourself, just make sure that you're emotionally and energetically in balance for doing it at that time. There's no point trying to do a reading if, you know, you're really heartbroken, you're really angry, you're really distraught. You're going to find it really difficult to decipher that message. So you need to make sure that your energy is sitting in like a balanced way before you start pulling the cards out for yourself. And another one as well is, you know, I know sometimes it can seem like a great party trick and things like that, but don't be pulling cards out and trying to do readings when, you know, you've been drinking too much alcohol. Again, the alcohol lowers your vibration and your energy, and it's not just going to be sitting well and working well with the cards, okay? So you need to be asking yourself a question as well, is, are you actually ready to get some advice that maybe you don't want? Because sometimes when we go to friends, they'll kind of like tell us things that we want to hear just to make us feel better, just to soothe us. And the thing I'll tell you with tarot is, I always feel like when I do this, it always gives me like a little bit of a slap around the face, a kick up the arse. You know, it's not here to coddle you. So if you're not ready to get like that bit of a pushing you out your comfort zone, then at that point, don't be pulling the cards for yourself. It's really not what you want to be doing. And it's also as well not just taking it at face value and taking it too literal. So I don't know, I've just like got a few cards here just for example. So, you know, you may look at a card and you may be doing, I work very much like on energetic themes when I'm reading. So say for instance you pull a card thinking like, right, okay, what energy do I need to be embracing and pulling in at the moment? And then you pull the Three of Swords and you're a bit like, shit, what's going on here? Like, I do not want to be embracing that kind of energy. And it's completely natural, and you probably feel like you want to just put the card back in the pack, give it a shuffle and pull again, but that card will have come to you for a reason, okay? So if you're pulling this as to like, what you need to embrace, and it's like, well, I don't want to feel pain, I don't want to feel suffering, but this is probably like a subtle little cue to you that what you're doing is masking, you're bottling up, you're hiding things. And it's that thing of, you know, like when we say, you know, we just put something in a little box, put it to the back of our mind. So what this card would then be pushing you to do is kind of like start to work with what is causing you grief, what is causing you upset, and to literally like give yourself permission to feel those emotions, to feel that rawness, to feel that, you know, that upset, that anger, that pain. Because when we keep trying to gloss over things all the time, we're not working with our full emotional system. And sometimes that's really like what we need to do in order to progress further. So you need to look at them in this kind of a way, you know, this would be coming up as advice for something. And if you're trying to work it in that, like, you know, that positive way of bringing something in, then this is kind of like telling you, you know, to get to where you need to be, you need to focus on what's going on in the background, what's going on in here, and deal with that before you can fully move on from it and progress. So that's like one way. And then again, you think, okay, all right then. And then, you know, you pull the Five of Pentacles next. And again, we've got this despondent card, you know, everything's just like, my God, this is like, you know, she's lost everything, she's sitting there, she's like out in the dark, out in the shadows, she's got nothing. And again, this might just be like that little message of just saying to you, do you know what? Sometimes what we need to do is kind of like hit that bottom. We need to realise what we've lost and never lose sight that, you know, we can always have the power to like open this door behind us. You know, sometimes, you know, like he's sitting there, it's in plain sight, but you can't see it. So this would be that kind of like message of to like, you know, the energy that I need to work with is to maybe sometimes stop being too much of a martyr and giving all that power away and being like, you know, oh, this has gone like tits up, so that's it, I'm just going to sit here in a massive sulk and I'm never going to get out of it. So this is kind of like then that message of saying, you know what, you need to kind of pull yourself together in a way. Like I told you, they will like kick you up the arse when you need it. And then, oh goodness me, and then you pull the Nine of Swords as well, and you're just like, right, okay, what is going on at all? And the Nine of Swords is very much the card of, you know, when you're living with those anxieties, you know, it's like the living nightmares, okay? And again, this is just like a little reminder as well, that most of the things that are troubling us, it's like what we perceive in our head. So it might not necessarily be happening, we're skipping ahead and thinking worst case scenario, and we're getting tied up in that, and we're just like worrying too much about things, what haven't happened, what could happen, but we don't actually know if it actually is, and we're just creating these scenes in our head which are causing us distress. And you'll always see, you know, we've got just this little white outline of the crow or the raven, and that's just like that little reminder that, you know, even when all the things are circling around, you know, there is that little bit of light that can come in, and again just help to bring us out of that state. But again, if you're not ready to kind of get hit with that kind of a message, then, you know, there's not really much point in sitting there and doing the reading, because you're just going to get yourself stressed out, you know. And then you've got, on the other hand, where you pull all these nice cards, and then, you know, you might get the Knight of Cups. So then you're thinking, oh, you know, Prince Charming's coming along, you know, somebody's going to come and sweep me off my feet, I'm going to get romanced. You know, you pull the Six of Wands and it's like, oh my God, like, I'm going to be that almost like superstar, you know, the spotlight shining on you, you're holding stage, you've got all this admiration. So again, we're like, oh, is this man going to come along and sweep me off my feet, you know, elevate me up? And then, you know, you pull the Empress and you see it as a sign of, oh wow, you know, this is like the man for me, and we're going to live happily ever after, and we're going to have these children. But again, the Empress doesn't necessarily predict like a physical birth, a lot of the time it represents like the birth of new ideas, new creative ventures. But if you're just looking to see what you want to hear, and then you're just pulling all these cards, but that's going to make you feel better if you're in that kind of a mindset, than pulling like those three together. You know, you can already see like the colours, the images are quite dark, almost kind of like depressing in a way if you look at it like that. And then you've got these, and you've got these more like reds, these oranges. So yeah, so just make sure you're in the right mindset for when you're pulling cards. Don't just look at it as, you know, this is concrete proof of this is going to happen. You know, again, it's like if you're literally wanting your knight in shining armour, there's no point sitting there on your couch, never going out and never engaging with other people, because he's not just going to come knocking on your front door and whisk you off your feet. It's not a film. Life doesn't work that way. So if that's what you're wanting, then, you know, you're going to have to work with that energy then of how do you bring this into your life. So that's what you want to be working with the cards with, to like look at ways of, I don't know for a better word of it, is to like manifesting it. Yeah, so if this is what you're wanting, then you're going to need to get up off your ass and get out and do something about it. So don't be giving all your power away to the cards. Like I say, don't read it if you're not feeling energetically up to it, because you can guarantee that the cards that you're picking then are kind of like going to be a reflection of your mood. So, you know, when you're feeling that darkness, that depression, that despair, that no hope, and then you start pulling like cards like that, you're not going to see like the hidden depths and the positive message it's actually trying to give you. You're just going to look at it and think like, oh, bad image, I don't like this, it's dragging me down even further. So that is today's little lecture over. So yeah, if you've got any questions, if you've got any more hints and tips that you'd like to share on anything, please feel free to drop it in the comments. And as always, just take care, hope you have a wonderful week, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.